Let me just say this about the SpaceX IPO and where it falls. I am on record as saying, I think it was probably one of our very first shows when we picked this up, where I said to you that the way I will know that we have reached the top on the AI revolution is when OpenAI goes public. That might not be the case, but directionally accurate. I may have been talking about the wrong company because I think SpaceX is going to IPO here in a few days, and they're going to suck up so much of the oxygen that no one else has a chance to get out. Because it's about $80 billion that's going to flood the system. And that has to come from somewhere. That money's got to come from somewhere. There's only so many shares of Tesla that people can sell to raise cash enough to go and buy those shares. Then I look at what's happening right now with semiconductor index, right? So the SOX and the PHLX are just stratospherically high right now. Micron, as an example, less than 50 days. In less than 50 days, the company went from a $500 billion market cap to $1 trillion market cap. And you know from recent memory how hard it is for a company to crack the $1 trillion club. There was a time when we were making a big deal out of the fact that Apple and Microsoft were the $2 trillion companies. And that wasn't that long ago. Now you got like 12. And a lot of them are in the tech space. And the number of chip companies that are up double and triple digits in just the last 3 months, let's call it, is concerning to me. So I know I'm sort of on an island right now. People are like, why do you want to rain on this parade? We're all having a good time. It's going to keep on going forever and ever. Look at the demand. Look at how much demand there is. There's so much demand. We have such a shortage. We can't get enough CPUs now. So anyway, all that to say, I think that the SpaceX IPO landing where it does is the last big bang that sucks up so much of the free cash that investors have available to throw at this market that something's got to give.
What about when Anthropic goes public? Because I think the narrative is that, you know, ChatGPT is a little on the outs. Anthropic is on the way in. So even if OpenAI, falters, well, just wait for Anthropic because that's the one that's really going stratospheric.
So I thought that, but I'm watching what's happening with OpenAI, despite all of what it seems like Sarah Fryer's trying to tell them internally, because, you know, despite what some outlets would have you think, she is a grown-up in the room. Despite what she's trying to do, telling everybody, hey, let's curb our enthusiasm, we are not ready to go yet. It doesn't sound like anyone is willing to listen to her. And I think what's happening internally is Sam Altman and anyone else on his team is saying, we got to get out there because Anthropic is about to eat our lunch. Like Anthropic is growing their revenues beyond anyone's expectations at a time when it seems like OpenAI might be slowing down. Their paid subscriptions have slowed down since Gemini came out. They still haven't hit that big, billion active users that they were targeting that we were supposed to get the announcement about at the end of 2025. We know they haven't hit it because they haven't told us they hit it. Otherwise, they'd be making a ton of noise about it and rubbing it in everybody's faces. And so at the same time that Anthropic is making all these waves as it releases every new generation of what Claude Code can do, the latest one was like, it's going to kill the banks. Like, imagine if Claude Code actually figured out a way to overtake 5% of what our banking system can do, the processing that needs to be done in the pipes. So anyway, I think that OpenAI is going to force itself out into the market and it's going to land with a thud. And it's going to land with a thud in the shadow of SpaceX being the world's largest IPO ever because it was financially engineered to be such. And that's going to take up all the oxygen left in this particular hysteria that we are seeing take shape.
Anyway, we've got a lot to talk about. We've got some fun
sorry,
stories.
I'm front running the show here, but it's on my. I've been waiting to talk to you about this
with bated breath. But instead, no, you did. You had the Microsoft early retirement package, which I listened to, and next week when I'm doing a solo episode, I'm diving deep into Roth conversions. It's going to be 2 straight hours of the math behind Roth conversions. So buckle up, sit down.
Don't you threaten me with a good time.
All right. I want to hit how Gen Z is trading alcohol for the gym. I had some economic observations from my trip to Japan that I want to bounce off you and share with you. And then also, I've spent my time back this week digging into the SpaceX IPO, which is one of the more interesting reads in the financial economic world. Let's get into it. So, Malcolm, I will have more to say on Japan later. I got a LinkedIn meme happen to me in real life that I wanted to share with you. So there's a meme on LinkedIn that you may have seen where it's like a person asking, is this mushroom edible? And the AI says yes. And then the second meme is a gravestone with the AI saying, you're right, that mushroom was poisonous. I'm sorry for the confusion. Would you like to learn more about poisonous mushrooms? And that's happened where you're like, hey, this is the answer to this. And the AI is like, oh yeah, I don't know why I messed up. Sorry for the confusion. So you're traveling in Tokyo. We had gotten back from a long, hot, and humid day. I will spare all of the details, but I needed Gold Bond. That is a product that is exceedingly difficult to find in Japan. So I'm scrounging around 7-Eleven looking for something. I go to a pharmacy, which is just more like beauty products, I think. And I'm desperately trying to communicate with the shopkeeper in, Google Translate about trying to define Gold Bond in English because the product doesn't work there. Through the translator app, it's not quite connecting, or he just doesn't have that product available, which is crazy to me. Anyway. And so finally, I start looking at products with ChatGPT. And I'm like, is this an appropriate product? And they're like, no, it's for something else. And finally, I see this thing that I see cooling wipes on there. And I go, great. I think this will work. I go, given everything I have told you, chat, which is some intimate personal information that I'm not sharing on the show for lack of authenticity. I'm not sharing because you don't need to know. I say, will this work for my given situation? And it goes, oh yeah, this is great. It's a cooling wipe that'll help cool you down. I go back to the hotel. I apply it. And then I start screeching like a seagull. And it turns out that it wasn't for that area. Yeah, so I go to chat and I say, what the heck, man? Why did you tell me to use this? ChatGPT says, oh, you made a classic Tokyo traveler mistake. That's not for that part of your body. That's for another part of your body. I'm like, you said this would be like Gold Bond. It's like, oh yeah, I guess I was wrong in telling you that. So anyway,
wow.
I think there's some diabolical.
So you legitimately lived that meme. You just lived to tell about it is the only difference.
Yeah, I think that I think there's some diabolical programming behind some of these AI systems. I'm starting to believe that, Malcolm.
That's why I'm not so sold that this whole thing is going as quickly and in the direction that a lot of people on the interwebs would have you believe, but I digress.
All right. The other quick story. This is a Bloomberg article by Sarah Rappaport. It is a $300 a month gym is Gen Z's social club. And it is about how younger consumers, Gen Z folks, are spending more on gym memberships and classes than a year ago, 30% more of them. And this is kind of taking the place of alcohol. People aren't going out to the bars to meet people and drink. They're going to these expensive fitness classes and gym memberships to meet people and socialize. It is something, this story is more about the upper echelon of society doing it. Mm-hmm. I have seen it in the rec centers I go to, where there are hordes of teenagers hanging out with each other after school to get a lift in. But I think
that's beautiful.
It is.
I haven't seen teenagers go to a rec center since 80s movies. Like, that's beautiful.
It's beautiful in theory until they start throwing their bags to reserve different gym equipment at 5:00 and then trying to do a circuit training. So even though basically everything is full, they're trying to hold on to like 3 different machines at one specific time. And it's something I'm like trying to gather the adults to go to war over.
Well, that's what you get for hanging out with teenagers.
I'm not hanging out with teenagers. They're there at the same time.
People. So that's your fault.
They're there at 5 o'clock, Malcolm. They're not there at like 3:30. 3:30 should be the teenager time, right after school. Somehow they're there at like 5:30. So anyway, that's a whole different other story. But what was your reaction to this? I know you wanted to talk about it.
Yeah, so you sort of alluded to one of my very first thoughts, which was the K is K-ing even harder. The fact that you have the option to trade in anything for a $300 a month gym membership as your way of it's yes, this is how people are occupying their time, but it's also somewhat of a status symbol, right? Like there used to be a time not that long ago, maybe like 10, 15, maybe 15 years ago, back in like the mid 2005, 2010, somewhere in that area. You'd see a person walking down the street with one of those brown paper bags that said Whole Foods on it, or a few of those brown paper bags that said Whole Foods on it. And that would signal something to you about that person's financial status. And then, I don't know if it's before or after Amazon came into the picture, Whole Foods is kind of commonplace in a major metropolitan area. Like I go into a Whole Foods in Midtown or downtown in New York, and there's like 500 people in there that look as if they're a bunch of different economic statuses, and that's how we choose. We want to pick our produce and pay for our produce, and it just is what it is. But it used to say something about you. You saw people getting out of Range Rovers and G-Wagons to go into the Whole Foods in your local area because that was the only people who could afford it. And if this feels similar to me, like the people who are saying, I've given up going out in the afternoon, in the evenings after work with my friends so that I can go to Pilates at 6 a.m. with my new friends who are way more health oriented and they're health maxing. And like all of that is virtue signaling in a way that I think you can only afford to do if you're at the top end of the K or somewhere close to it. Or you want to appear as someone who is at the top end of the K. Because also in the article, they were talking about how people have canceled other things that they used to do that cost money to come up with the money to do this. And then there's other people that were like, oh yeah, I take a class here and a class here. I have this membership that's $300 a month, but I also spend another $500 a month when I add up all the other places that I like to go to occupy my time in that way. So that's one side of it. On the other side of it, I like it. I applaud it. I respect it. I love the fact that people are prioritizing their physical health that way and not focusing so much on the things that are a little more detrimental that could be isolating even, right? Like you go to drink in a bar after work. It's not a super well lit place that's serving the healthiest of beverages. So if instead your alternative is I want to go spend that same cash doing something that's going to help me live long and prosper, like I applaud it too. So it's weird. It's kind of like this merging of two separate reactions.
Net is a good thing, is what I would say.
Yes.
And I mean, to your Whole Foods point, somewhat of a side note, Whole Foods became significantly more affordable to the point where a lot of the produce is competitively priced with major grocery brands, at least in Denver. And I think it's significantly better. So Whole Foods, you can go as crazy as you want, or you can get like pretty affordable stuff there now too. There's still grocery status symbols in terms of Erewhon, which is like the Los Angeles one with the, I think like Kylie Jenner shake where you can get an apple for like $10 or whatever.
LA's always going to figure out a way to separate the haves from the wannabe haves.
But the status symbol thing, I take your point on that. And I was thinking of that in terms of streetwear. So I feel like, and I'm not the most fashionable person, but Supreme and Off-White, you used to see more of these sort of like big, gaudy streetwear brands to be like, look at this shirt that I was able to get that you weren't able to get. Or I know people, or I spent $50 on a sticker. Now, the signal for wealth and status, I think younger generations have said, cool, you can buy that. That means nothing. But if you're fit, if you're in shape, that's a way of signaling status because I built this through discipline and healthy choices. And this is something that you can't buy, even though, you can buy dietitians, you buy expensive gym memberships, like set that aside for a moment. You're still putting work in. Sorry. But
it also says something about you because you have the kind of discretionary free time to devote to something like that.
100%.
Like it costs time to be physically fit, and that says something too.
I think that's 100% correct. And if you're trying to meet people for a romantic relationship, looking at a gym or like a fitness class where there's a community there, people are in shape, like that might be a better place to look than a bar on a Thursday night.
I like that aspect of it too. So I remember run clubs got really big, I don't know, 2010-ish or right before.
A lot of people meet there.
And I would see pictures sometimes on like Facebook or whatever where people would have their weddings and the wedding would basically just be their run club. So you'd have like 50 or 100 people who all are in their workout gear at this wedding together because that's what, or, you know, that's probably not the best idea. CrossFit is more the appropriate thing for the time. And people were so devoted to the church of CrossFit that like all of their friends became CrossFitters and that sort of thing. What I was looking at was the photos that they had in this Bloomberg article. And one of them was like somebody's bachelorette party. And it was like 10 people, all who look like the cover image of that particular Pilates studio. Use your imagination. And that also is the aesthetic that people are going for, is like me and all of my crew work out. And so it was saying like people have replaced their usual friendships or their longest standing friendships with these new ones that they've made at these gyms, or people who just moved to a new city and didn't know anybody. Like I've made all these new friendships with these people who all work out at my gym, and like that becomes your identity. And so there's a lot of different social aspects to it, but
and that part's a little melancholy. You know, I'm friends.
It's the K again.
Yeah, I'm friends with you because I sweat together, but also that's been going on forever. This is a version
but also
because
we're looks maxing together,
and this is also a version of a country club. Maybe I want to join Equinox because, you know, if I meet people there, I know they can afford $500 a month to get in. Therefore, you know, this is actually there's a barrier to entry.
Can they though? That's the other, but can they afford it? That's the other side of it. Like, what are they giving up to be here?
They're not thinking about it as hard as you are in terms of meeting people. They're not going, can this person afford it?
I suppose that's true. I'm skeptical of a lot of things that look good on the
So anyway,
on the surface,
it's an interesting. Like, I want to talk more about the trend in terms of just like you're seeing still more people going into Lifetime Fitness, which is the K part of fitness chains. It's like $300 a month. But also I see people on social media saying it's a good deal because you get childcare there for like 2 hours a day. So they do the math on it and say, oh, this maybe actually works for me. And even Planet Fitness is seeing more people get in the door. So it is a shift, I think, a long-term shift that also goes a little bit beyond just the K-shaped economy.
And your kids go make new friends when they go to the kid center in there and they make
lifelong. Summer camp.
Joking.
Just send them to summer camp is the answer. Send them to summer camp, not a gym's.
They don't have gym summer camp yet.
Yeah, they do. Lifetime absolutely had summer camps for kids.
Sorry. Shows you what I know.
Okay, let's do the SpaceX IPO after teasing it for about 20 minutes. This is, I mean, it's one of the biggest stories of the year in terms of the stock market and just the economy. So I want to spend some time on it. Only 3 to 5% of the shares are going available to the public. I'm skeptical of this IPO for a number of reasons. And because I'm working on some stories related to SpaceX, I don't want to answer this question, but you can. You ready to buy some shares on opening day? How about that, Malcolm?
I wouldn't buy them with your money.
With my money?
Yeah.
That means you care about me. That's really kind.
Like, there's nothing you could do to get me to buy the Elon Musk IPO. Because that's really what this is. You're not buying into a space company that is doing anything meaningful in space. You are buying into a space company that's doing something meaningful in space that's been dwarfed by a company with AI aspirations hanging out of its you-know-what. So the TAM that Elon Musk is talking about, $23 trillion, $24 trillion, something like that, is comprised of mostly AI and a little bit of space sprinkled in. And so also, here's what's the most egregious part of this whole thing. I'm going off topic slightly for a second.
You can go wherever you want.
But there's a spot in the S1 for this IPO. It's formal document to tell you all the great things about the company and why you should want to participate in this IPO. Scribbled in there toward the bottom, because this thing read like the Iliad.
There's a lot of repetition, by the way.
We're going to take $130 million to buy recalled Cybertrucks.
Wait, what? I missed that.
We're going to take IPO money from SpaceX to buy Cybertrucks that got pulled off the street because they were defective. What in the heck is going on here?
Oh my gosh.
I have to think that this is a case where the people in charge think that the people who are subscribing to this are too stupid to know any better. What traditionally happens when a company has to recall its vehicles, Ford, GM, Stellantis, they eat the loss on the balance sheet. They say, hey, we had to write down $130 million because we had a gas pedal that didn't work properly. And that's going to be reflected in our most recent quarterly earnings. We're so sorry, but that's the cost of doing business. In this case, we're not willing to take the L. We're going to stuff it into this other company. And that's also the reason why I'm calling this the Elon Musk Inc. IPO, because we all know that realistically, Tesla is going to become a piece of this within like 6 months of them IPOing. And so you're really buying an option, a call option on Elon Musk and all of his great adventures. And so would I buy into this IPO? No. Would I buy it 6 months after it gets cut by 50%? No. Would I buy it 6 years from now? No. Because all of this is just financial engineering on steroids. And the last thing I'll say about it is the one thing that would be somewhat encouraging to me doesn't even exist in this scenario, which is if Elon Musk didn't have 100% absolute control over the company forever and ever, amen, he's going to end up with 85% ownership anyway. And so he gets to do whatever he wants to do, and you just go along for the ride, for better or for worse. And so, yeah, no, there's no way I would want anything to do with this thing, because all of the mentions in the S1 about how the company's going to make money have to do with AI and not much of anything to do with like, what's
space.
The satellite company? No, forget space though. What's the Boost Mobile of space?
AST Space Mobile.
No. They're
AST Space Mobile is the internet provider in space.
No, Starlink.
Starlink.
That's what I was reaching.
Yeah,
for.
I like Starlink.
That would have been the most impressive thing to me that you would want to focus as much of your attention to as you could, because that's the here and now of the space conversation. So yes, we're going to send these reusable rockets up into space and return them back to Earth's orbit safely, nestled in a nice little cocoon by the water. That's beautiful. That's exciting. I love looking at that. But for now, space tourism is not really a thing. Space data centers are even less of a thing. But what we could get excitement about right now that's tangible, that people can understand and see and know and love, is we're going to bring internet connectivity to all the places around the globe that they don't exist using Starlink. And look at what we've done in the places where we already are. Here's the incremental revenue that's going to come from that. AI is going to allow us to do X, Y, and Z with that, with Grok included, and blah, 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 blah. Like, that's a compelling enough story that I think you would have gotten somewhere with. This AI everywhere story, you're not even like the third most popular LLM. That's why you had to go start renting out the servers that you built that you didn't have any use for, because nobody wants Grok. So anyway, like, all of this looks like crap.
They rented the servers to Anthropic, right? Part of the data centers in Memphis.
Yeah, so you're admitting defeat to one of the top two competitors in that space.
I like Grok. That's my filthy secret that I don't want to tell anyone. I use Grok sometimes. It's good for current events and what's updated on the internet.
And that's how you ended up eating a poison mushroom.
No,
See how that was
ChatGPT.
came back full circle?
Do not defame Grok here. That was ChatGPT. I would like to add to that point, because this is absolutely incredible. The company had already purchased $131 million worth of Cybertrucks. Not only that, Malcolm, at the manufacturer's suggested retail price, they paid full price for their Cybertrucks that nobody was buying. Malcolm is shaking his head back and forth. In addition to $500 million, $506 million of mega pack products, which is the battery products from Tesla.
Nobody does this. No car company out there does this. I know they're not a car company. I know they're a technology company. I know they're a battery company. I know they're a robotics company. I know they're going to change the world. No other car company behaves this way. Wouldn't let them do it with my money.
The other, this is seemingly small, but I don't think other companies have done this. But apparently they're making it so if you buy a share, you now enter into requirements for mandatory arbitration, meaning shareholders can never file a class action lawsuit against the company, and they have to.
Because he's tired of going to the Delaware courts.
So, but I also think, I don't know if that's been done before, and I also don't know if it's legally enforceable. But also, I mean, the realistic chances of you and me putting together a successful case against SpaceX for whatever issues we may have is close to nil, or Facebook or any major tech company. But that to me is a real thumb in the nose to your shareholder base.
Yeah, what a smack in the face.
So this is hard. I am rooting for this company in some ways, though. I think there's financial weirdness going on to what you said. Only a slice of shares are going outstanding. They're using money to buy back Cybertrucks. But man, when I was on a plane and I was able to use Starlink internet and live stream sports while I was rocketing through the sky at 500, 600 miles an hour, I'm like, this is an incredible technology. And there are parts of the space technology build out that are significantly more optimistic than the AI build out. Because
I think they only have a partnership with United Airlines at this point. Is that right?
I mean, I was on Hawaiian, so I can at least confirm they have a partnership with Alaska Hawaiian Airlines.
Okay, so maybe there's two then,
and Royal Caribbean.
But my point in that is, there's your TAM. If you can be the satellite internet provider of every single airline, there's 100 or 200 of them globally. Now you've got a addressable market of however many people travel the globe on an annual basis, and everybody's using your satellite in order to get internet connectivity because everybody's experienced terrible Wi-Fi on an airplane.
This episode is sponsored by Capital Area Planning Group. Capital Area Planning Group is a fiduciary wealth management firm that specializes in helping high net worth individuals and families navigate the complexities that come along with managing concentrated stock options, multiple income streams, and an ever-changing tax code. While our team of certified financial planners are well-versed in all things personal finance, our areas of expertise include equity compensation, estate planning, and multi-year tax planning. At Capital Area Planning Group, we believe in pricing transparency. That's why our fees are posted on our website, right alongside the various services we perform on behalf of our clients throughout the year. If you're tired of receiving the same cookie-cutter advice from your financial advisor, then don't wait. Reach out to us today at capgllc.com to experience a better approach to wealth management. Again, that web address is www.capgllc.com.
We believe that space represents the largest economic frontier in human history, unlocking unprecedented opportunities in orbit and on Earth. Earth has limits, essentially. Space does not. So this is the largest.
Well, that is true. That is technically true. However, what does that have to do with Grok?
Well, the thing that I think is interesting when they talk about their TAM, which is something I was not expecting, is how small space and Starlink is a part of this business compared to enterprise applications.
And what's an enterprise application other
You're
than
the enterprise software person, so I was going to ask you.
I said that facetiously. Grok is what they're referring to as their enterprise application opportunity.
And for them, their enterprise opportunity is this, quote, "We are also developing Macro Hard." Macro Hard is the name of this AI platform. It's designed to be capable of fully emulating digital workflows and augmenting human operation of computers, from coding and product development to management and entire business processes using sophisticated agents. We believe Macro Hard will have the potential to fundamentally transform how companies are structured and operate, thereby allowing dramatic increases in human productivity. It's like we're also doing a Palantir thing is kind of what I got from that. And also, I have never been more certain that the name of a product was developed by one boy. Because there's no way there was a female in the room that went, yeah, macro hard sounds great. Let's do that for a enterprise application that everyone will use.
What woman looked at the name Cybertruck and said, yeah, let's do that?
Yeah. So anyway, there's a lot here where my questions raised, but also they're trying to do one of the big stories that I think the bet ultimately is for this company is, can they do data centers in space? And the more I learn about it, the more I go, maybe. I'm trying not to be a total pessimist on it, but there is a limit.
You forgot a word.
What's the word?
Look, can they do data centers in space profitably?
There you go. Well, it's if they can get the launch costs. It's like they need to get the launch costs down dramatically.
I just watched a Blue Origin rocket explode on launch not that long ago. How much money got incinerated in that one launch going to zero, right? Like, can they do it profitably? That's a pet project that Jeff Bezos is willing to fund himself personally out of his $200 billion. Where is the bottom as far as how much we're willing to spend on space data centers before we say we're out of money? That doesn't make any sense. That's in the too hard pile.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not smart enough to tell you how a satellite connects with other satellites with laser beams to create a data center that's competitive with the huge, monstrosity complexes that Kevin O'Leary wants to go build in Utah versus a network of satellites moving together that also can run large language models.
You know how I know it can't be profitable?
Okay. How do you know? This sounds like a joke, but yeah, how do you know?
If you need your car to be fixed, what do?
You go see a mechanic.
You've got to send an astronaut into space to go repair a data center in orbit?
You have a million of them going. And so if something breaks down, you just take the satellite out of commission. So
aside from the fact that we already have space trash, and that's a problem because you have so many low Earth orbit satellites that have been launched that are a waste because they don't do anything anymore.
Space junk.
We're going to send a million of these things. I'm skeptical of whether we can get one functional and into orbit. And you're telling me we're going to get a million of these things up and at them?
They already have Starlink. Starlink is already
That's not a space data center, though.
It's proof of concept that you could do internet in space.
Colossus is a data center funded and put together by Elon Musk. Again, so I bring it up for a reason. Colossus is a data center here on Earth that's like one city block basically in size. We're going to put a million of those things up into orbit.
The satellites are much smaller.
Right. We're talking data centers, though.
You don't have to worry about centers. The data center is a collection of small satellites. And you don't even have to worry about cooling in space because you can just take the pipes outside and space is really cold. And you have an unlimited energy supply. You have the sun connects to the data center. Unlimited.
I wish I shared your optimism.
I didn't say I was optimistic. I said I was rooting.
Yeah, you did.
I said I was rooting for it.
You're the giddiness on your face tells me that you are rooting for this.
I'm rooting for it
to come true. And I wish I shared your optimism.
I want it to come true. It's more of like a toddler screaming, I wish, I wish. I want it to come true because I think it would solve a lot of the issues with present data centers, which is that they suck up a ton of water. They don't necessarily create jobs. Stick it on a satellite and put it into outer space. Go for it. Sure.
I don't disagree with that. Conceptually, I think it makes sense. I think it makes a ton of sense that we would say, let's go put these things in a place that they don't get in anybody's way and you don't have a neighborhood ANC fighting their local representative saying, get that thing out of here. I can't believe you signed that contract. We're going to vote you out of office, not in my backyard. Like, this would be a great solution. But I think there's probably something else somewhere here on Earth that we're not paying enough attention to that would solve this problem too.
Nuclear
there's
power.
A lot of ocean out there.
Yeah.
How come we're not figuring out how to put these data centers on like giant ocean liners and just
Salt.
push them out to sea, or in submarines somewhere that can operate under, underwater.
So now you just want to boil the ocean.
Well, we don't have to boil the ocean. It's cold in some places. So you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I think there's solutions that we're overlooking that are a lot more tangible than shooting stuff up into the air to see what happens.
Sure. One other part of this, and I actually do want to talk about kind of the space thing.
Sorry. You had a whole SpaceX thing you wanted to do.
We're doing the SpaceX thing.
But I feel like I'm not letting you get to the parts that, ruffle your feathers.
You're fine. I think it's hilarious that we aim to evolve X into a quote unquote everything app. Real-time information, communications, media, payments, banking, commerce, and more with one user experience. So they are building a social media platform that is intensely divided among people into an everything app, which is harder to define, I think. You don't get to that until page 97. There's so much going on in this S1 that the building of a app that can do everything for you is almost 100 pages into this thing. And when I looked at this as well, I wanted to see more about Mars. That was the whole SpaceX thing, which is that we need to extend the light of human consciousness outside of Earth in case a meteor wipes us out and we need to build a Mars colony. Now we're kind of backing off on that. Now it's, we got to do this AI thing first. Then maybe we're going to set up a lunar colony that will further allow us to build the Mars colony. Maybe the lunar part was part of it already, but I was kind of expecting to see a lot more on the whole, we're sending humans to Mars thing within this S1.
One last thing I'll say about this.
Sure.
From a technical perspective, the S1 is meant to be a very tight brochure.
Sure.
Where there's not a lot of hyperbole that's allowed to go into it, because we've got to tell a true story about what the market can expect. The S1 process is part of what kept WeWork from going public for so long. They kept having to go back and rework it because I'm blanking on the guy's name now. Adam Newman wanted to put so much of his bloviation into writing that the powers that be had to save him from himself or save shareholders from him. That's the reason that the SPAC became the easiest way to take shares to the open market that had no business being in the open market, because the process, the writing you're allowed to put out there, you can use a lot more performative and projection-oriented language, way more than you can do that in an S1. And that's another piece that I took issue with here, that this is so much futuristic, hyperbolic language that, to your point, gets repeated a few different times that looks like Grok actually wrote it.
It's not impossible.
But it's breaking all the rules is basically what I was reaching for, of how you're supposed to write when you bring a company public. And that struck me too.
Yes. I think it's also worth noting year over year, and they just give you the 3 quarters for this, or the quarterly number for this. The amount of revenue they've made from space, the space part of the business, is down year over year. And they say it's launch timing, it's this and that. But I thought that was somewhat remarkable in this. Total revenue is up about 32% year on year. Never mind the sort of income loss, because they're pouring so much money into the AI build out. But yeah, I hope we get more cool stuff from this company, but the amount of self-dealing going on, the loss of focus from, hey, we're going to build an everything app. We're going to also build space-based data centers. Maybe we'll develop asteroid mining and space tourism in the future. But right now it's mostly AI, and maybe we'll start to build out that Mars mission. It was a little.
I have landed where it sounds like you're going, which is that we think about the internet of 1995 through 2000 and all of the crap that got built that was unnecessary, and it just kind of got thrown in the trash. It landed on the cutting room floor at the end of the day after the boom and bust. I think that out of SpaceX and all of the boom and bust that is clearly happening before our very eyes, we probably are going to get left with one or two things that ends up being extremely useful for us 10, 20 years from now that we can't quite see just yet. But there's something in terms of like them building the internet, continuing the analogy, that I think we'll benefit from, that I'm appreciative that he's willing to incinerate his own capital to try and make it happen. I just wish he wouldn't be trying to incinerate our capital as individual investors too.
I would rather have Elon Musk than the faceless private equity billionaires you have not heard of.
Okay.
And the other thing, my last thought on this, I've decided I'm a bear on space tourism.
Huh. Wait.
I'm a bear.
Wait.
I think it's going to be really expensive. I think the influencers are going to get to the moon and they're going to be like, it was really hard to get here and there wasn't a lot to do. They're going to go back to Disney World. There's a new ride there.
But what if they build an Equinox in space?
They build a what?
An Equinox gym in space.
You need to put on.
Now you get to tell people that you can afford to work out at that one location they can't get to.
I mean, you really need to increase the weight because if your body is up there, you're losing bone density pretty quickly because there's no resistance. There's no gravity. So
just do water aerobics.
You got to work out for like 3 hours. I think the astronauts have to work out for like 3 hours a day just to not lose their like bones and muscle tissue.
I'll keep workshopping it.
Yeah,
There's something
keep working on it. All right, let's get out of SpaceX. Maybe some more little different stuff. You're gonna get enough SpaceX on other financial podcasts. You did a half marathon, and you said you had thoughts on it you wanted to share. Congratulations on waiting 40 minutes before you mentioned your half marathon, by the way.
Well, because this wasn't one I was particularly proud of. That's probably why. This one actually pissed me off. I did the Cleveland half, which nothing
rock and roll
super.
It's the rock and roll half, right?
Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Yeah. Well, the Cleveland Health System is actually the marquee sponsor, but it goes past the Hall of Fame and everything else. But what really pissed me off, aside from me not being prepared the way I should have been for this whole thing, which won't happen to me again, like I guarantee it, that I was so pissed off crossing the finish line. I didn't realize this, but apparently I was wearing it on my face and my wife was worried and like was about to get a medic because she thought I was like injured. Because I was just that angry. But anyway, so it finishes uphill is what really pissed me off about it.
Ooh.
And mile 11 specifically, I think the entire mile was uphill across a bridge with like a metal grate that my toes kept kind of like falling into. And so I'm like, gave it all up on the hill on like mile 8 and finally like get myself back together. I'm in the groove and I'm like, I only got, 3 more to go. And I'm always thinking like, it's a 5K. I've done 1 million 5Ks. I can do them in my sleep. Mm-hmm. It's only a 5K. Just get this last one done. And then I look up and I literally am looking up at the hill and I'm like, Jesus Christ. So I did it, but I was on pace to hit my under 2 hour target until I got to that hill. And I think it took me like 13 minutes to run that mile, which meant like as a rule, I don't stop running ever. I'm not willing to walk a race. I might as well have walked it. I probably could have walked faster than 13 minutes a mile. So like, yeah, the whole thing just pissed me off. But also I have nobody to blame but myself because I wasn't as prepared as I normally would be, or at least I know I should be going into it.
I thought we were getting to a broader observation other than you were just like pissed.
Yeah,
I was pissed off.
There was no broad observation. There was, I did not prepare like I knew I needed to. Muscle memory is the only thing that got me through that back half of this thing. But because I'm saying it out loud to you and our 16 listeners, like it'll actually have to hold me more accountable to it, I guess. Here's something else though. Speaking of,
did you go to the Hall of Fame, by the way?
No, I've never been.
It's fun.
I go to Cleveland like 3 or 4 times a year. I've never been to the Hall of Fame.
There are exhibitions that are pretty extraordinary there. Very cool place to visit. And then there's sometimes artifacts, I'm not trying to be just bitter right now, but I'm like, all right, how long can I look at Bob Marley's hat? That sure was the hat he wore.
Allegedly.
Allegedly, yeah.
How do we know? But yeah, real quick, markets related, something I'm paying attention to.
Sure.
Snowflake had its day in the sun where all of a sudden the market recognized software is not going to disappear as an important piece of the tech ecosystem. It's just certain types of software companies that charge per user fees, like Salesforce, which is why Salesforce hasn't gone in the same direction as Snowflake post earnings. Now I'm paying attention to cybersecurity.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, the cybersecurity stocks are on fire. And we're finally waking up and recognizing what Malcolm has been saying for several months on this show and wherever else, that AI agents taking over our computers create more vulnerabilities, not fewer. And by the time people are listening to this episode, I will be at the Gartner Cybersecurity Conference here in DC. And I guarantee you, the thing that I'm going to hear more than anything else from all of those CISOs from around the country, at least, but probably around the world, is about this concept of agentic governance, which is the grown-up that has to chaperone these agents while the humans are asleep. So I'm glad to see that people are finally starting to wake up and recognize that, like, this has been a fever dream, that Claude is going to be able to act as your cybersecurity watchdog. That's it.
Okay.
I just wanted to pat myself on the back and take that victory lap. I thought I was going for some bigger, broader point other than
no, you're fine.
I was right, but that's all I wanted to say.
Sometimes people want stock picks. That's good. Things to watch. My dad would like to thank you for shouting out Okta a while ago.
Oh, well, he loves me now. It just notched a new 52-week high.
Yeah, he's a big fan of you. So when it goes down, I won't ask him about it. But yeah, he was like, tell Malcolm, give him some props for Okta. So there you go. All right, I'll do this story from Japan. This is my economic observation. I'm working on a grand theory here.
Okay.
Sam and I were visiting this sort of like temple in Kyoto, and I think it was Kiyomizu-dera, excuse me. It's this UNESCO World Heritage Site. It's a huge like complex of different temples going on that you go up and visit. And it was a long travel day. We were tired. I didn't know much about the site other than it was just a stop in between the trains, taxis, walking, coin lockers, getting to different parts of the country. And you get there, it is completely packed just to get up the narrow streets to go see this temple. So you're wading your way through people, and I don't know a whole lot about it. And we get to the temple site, and I guess my voice carries because this group of Japanese school children who were learning English come up to Sam and me and ask, hey, can we interview you in English? I go, absolutely. And they say, we have two questions. Question one, what has surprised you most about the temple? And I was like, shoot, I really don't know a lot about this place. Sam saves it. She goes, it's crowded. And they're like, oh, yeah. And I'm like, there's a lot. I'm like, and then I make a joke that I had to kick a child to get out of my way so I could go to the holy site. Because there's so many people, I had to kick a school child, little kid, so I could make my way here. And the boys start laughing. And the girl says, oh, an American joke. I was like, yes, that was an American joke. And they go, second question, what anime do you know? And I had actually just looked at the Wikipedia for best-selling manga series in Japan on the train ride over. So I was able to rattle off like 10. And many of these you may have heard of. One Piece I've mentioned on the show. Pokemon is an anime. Dragon Ball Z is an anime. Naruto. There are a lot, and if you're not familiar with it, this is huge among Gen Z right now. 54% of Gen Z have a favorable view of anime, or it's something they like. It is in between Formula One racing and the NBA in terms of worldwide popularity for a younger generation. So I promise I'm going to tie this back.
No, I'm being educated here. I had no idea.
And so it is a huge entertainment thing that has a definite pipeline, which is that these ideas start in manga comic form, which are these black and white comics where chapters are released every week, and it's collected in these big, thick magazines made of recycled paper. So I think they can be 400 to 500 pages long with 20 different stories in them, and they're sold for like $2 or $3. And now, and even in the United States, manga outsells traditional comic books. And I think it's because you're getting more story, you're getting complete stories. It may be 1,000 chapters long for the long running ones, but unlike Batman or Superman right now, there's one version of it. If you're looking at Batman in the DC universe, there's like 5 different versions of Batman and then spin-off series, and each one costs $3 or $4. And so you have this sort of testing ground in terms of manga. Then it gets developed into an animated series. And then maybe it goes on to merchandise sales and movies. One of the biggest movies of last year was it was an anime. I think it was called Chainsaw Man. It made like $700 million worldwide box office. It's more than Superman or Fantastic Four. So my point with this is that when these comics developed, they took a lot of inspiration from Disney animation, Marvel Comics, Hollywood science fiction. And now we're in the United States. These big Hollywood companies are desperately trying to find new intellectual property. Mm-hmm. And as I've been kind of learning about this, I go, you could create a sort of venture capital arm of big Hollywood studios in the form of a sort of comic book. So if I were Disney right now, instead of trying to spend $200 million on some Pixar movies that have been hit or miss lately, why wouldn't I try to find one idea? Maybe I can continue to do that. Pixar has a very good story development program. But what if I were publishing comics as a farm league to see what characters catch on with people and then develop that into a movie?
Right idea, wrong people.
Wrong people.
Disney is still focused on the old Walt Disney idea of making fairy tale movies for 7-year-old little girls. Netflix is who you should be talking to about this.
So, yeah, Netflix does have a first look deal with an independent comic creator called Boom Studios, and they've actually been huge on publishing anime. Netflix reported more than half of their subscribers have watched anime. So it's hugely popular among their subscriber base. I think even Warner Paramount, you could evolve this for American tastes, which is, even for Disney, you could test out different storylines or bringing back characters in ways that weren't, may not be, you may not want to bet $100 million on it right now, but what if you could bet 100,000, 200,000 and see if different storylines connect with people? You can do kids versions of this, or even if you're Warner Brothers Paramount, you have a ton of unused scripts on the blacklist. There's a lot of writers who have created really good scripts that aren't being turned into movies or television shows. Mm-hmm. You pair those writers up with an artist, and for movie nerds like me, you might want to see undeveloped storyboards in sort of comic form, and then you can go through that. You have readers vote on what they like or what they're paying attention to. And then you can build up IP a little bit easier than trying to dredge up things that people don't care about anymore, or taking $100 million swings on characters that were made by a committee and not a single-minded creator who's yelling at editors, "You're going to die for this pirate story about Monkey D. Luffy," or like a J.K. Rowling getting rejected 12 times by publishing houses, but really confident that this story about a boy wizard is going to work. Mm-hmm. And anyway, that's my whole point of this, is that these big studios could absolutely develop venture capital style arms through making comics in a more Americanized way that is inspired by Japanese manga, and it may work for them.
I don't know if any VCs listen to our show at all ever, or if they ever will, but I think that is an interesting direction that you've just sent them off in, other than building the next microchip company that is going to try and compete against NVIDIA or AMD for dominance. Like spending a few $1 million, a few tens of millions of dollars to develop your studio, to find your 10 big hits. One of them maybe doesn't rival Pokemon, doesn't rival Dragon Ball Z, because those two, when you said them, I knew them by name, which tells you that they are blockbusters versus everything else you just said, because I've never heard of it before. Like, in my mind, anime is still the thing that when I was in high school, the 5 people out of 3,000 students that wore anime t-shirts or said they watched Dragon Ball Z were like, nerd, and kept going.
I mean,
like,
the art was kind of a turn off for me. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I had this kind of like friction toward it. And I've watched a few episodes of One Piece to try to understand it. But to your point, you haven't heard of it, but this is more culturally relevant. Monkey D. Luffy, though you're not familiar with him, is more culturally relevant to Gen Z than Batman, Superman, or Spider-Man.
Well, that's where I was going. That's actually where I was going. I was going to say the difference between me being in high school and people who are in high school today, but even more so my daughter, who's nowhere close to it, because they've had the internet their entire lives and because they've had social media their entire lives, the world is way more global, even for us arrogant Americans that don't believe that anybody else on the planet exists other than us. They're more aware of and appreciate things that come from other parts of the world in a way that I never would have as a teenager, or I probably never will as a grown adult who has a passport. And so I think this is the time for those kinds of things to be making their way into the US. And so as you're talking about it, I'm like, yeah, I could see a world where you create a studio that's similar to like the Jordan Peele, I shouldn't give him all the credit, that's similar to like the horror movie formula, period.
Blumhouse.
Where, sure.
Yeah.
And even if you think about Blair Witch Project, right? Blair Witch Project cost like $5 to make. It was like literally 3 camcorders in the woods in the middle of the night, and they probably shot it over like 2 weeks. And it made $1 gazillion. And the formula for horror movies is always like, it's got 2 settings, right? It's in the house or it's outside of the house. It's the people who are alive or it's the people who are dead. We're going to shoot the guy in the woods with the chainsaw, or we're going to shoot the people running away from him. And it's going to cost us $50,000, $100,000 to make a ton of terrible horror films. But 5 of them are going to make their way through that year. And whatever the 5 are, some of them are going to be big blockbuster hits that can even go international. And as you're describing it, I think that's the same thing that could function here.
I think that's right. I know we got to go. Now there's a YouTube to horror movie line that's also working, where YouTube creators are making profitable horror movies. Let's talk about it on another show.
I dig it.
All right. You can find me at Rick So Slick. I'm on Instagram and TikTok, also on LinkedIn if you want to connect there. If you're a venture capitalist who wants to talk about this idea, I think it's a good idea. I think
they'll probably just go steal the idea and never tell you about it.
That too. Malcolm is at Malcolm on Money. He's on social media as well. And if they steal my idea, I'm not a media executive, so maybe I shouldn't have said it on a podcast. We'll end there. See you next week.
Information shared in this recording and by its guests represent the views and opinions of the guests and does not represent the views or opinions of the host. This content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. This content is not, nor is it intended to be, a substitute for professional financial advice. It is always recommended that you seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial service provider with any questions you may have regarding your personal financial situation.